Hi everyone, I've got a little gentle yoga practice to share with you today. And as you do this practice, I'm going to encourage you, again, not just to pay attention to what you're feeling in your body, but also to pay attention to what's going on in your mind, your thoughts, your emotions, and how those are informing your behaviors and your approach to the practice. And this work is actually a really integral part of yoga. Yoga is a mind-body practice. So it's important to pay attention to the mind when you're working in the body, and vice versa. For today, I'm going to encourage you to think about what in yoga we refer to as asteya. Asteya is non-stealing. And at first glance, I think a lot of people feel like they can check this one off. Well, I don't steal. I don't take things that don't belong to me. It's worth taking a second look at this principle because there are a lot of ways in our yoga practice that we may reach for things that aren't ours. And a couple of ways this could manifest when you're working in your body. One is comparing yourself to others, right? Trying to be something that you're not. Pushing your own limits in a way that's harmful. So I'm not referring to learning and growing within your yoga practice, right? I'm talking about pushing beyond your limits in a way that isn't good for you, that's draining your energy, that's hurting your body, that is preventing you from really seeing clearly and moving forward in your practice. So that's one way we might sort of reach for what isn't ours, right, in our yoga practice. Another way that we steal, I think, primarily from ourselves when we do our yoga practice is by engaging in behaviors that prevent us from being present in the practice that we're doing. And I'm not talking about just getting distracted because that's a human thing. It happens, right? But we might do things where we come to our practice rushed. We don't have enough time and we kind of rush through the practices that we do instead of maybe taking more time or doing fewer practices and really being engaged with the ones we're doing. Or, bringing your phone to the mat and paying attention to it in the middle of practice. Those kinds of things that sort of take us out. And it may even be the thing where you go into a forward fold and then you just check out and start thinking about something else. Yes, to some extent, those are automatic thought patterns that pop up in our minds. And as we start to see them clearly, we can rewire them and shift them. And so that's where I think asteya can really become a practice for us, right? We're going to do a postural practice today. And I'll just offer you that as kind of a lens that you can look at what's happening in your practice through. For the practice today, I'm going to recommend, you don't need to, but I'll recommend that you have either an accordion folded or rolled blanket. Could be a rolled yoga mat, a spinal strip, something that you can put underneath your spine that's a little more on the narrow side here. And if there is a firmer edge of it, that's going to be towards the bottom or towards your body here. You also want a strap-like object, so it could be a yoga strap. But for this practice, it's really just to hold between your hands. So it could be a leash, a bathrobe tie, a belt, a sweatshirt, really anything you can hold between your hands just to help keep your hands connected. And that's going to prompt a little bit more awareness as you're moving too. So you put the strap to the side. If you're choosing to lie on something that supports your spine, you're going to get that. We're going to aim to put that bottom firm edge somewhere just a little bit below your shoulder blades. You do not have to be on the floor, so you could be setting yourself up somewhere else if you like. As you come into this position, you're going to give yourself a moment to settle and you're going to make sure it feels okay. And here's where we're not going to steal from ourselves, right? By forcing ourselves to be in a position that really isn't serving us right now. So if you've come onto this back support and it's uncomfortable for you, and that discomfort isn't really adjusting and fading as you spend a moment here settling in, then don't do it. So you could make some adjustments if you know how to do that. You could certainly comment on this video and I can give you some suggestions for making some adjustments. But you equally could just remove this and just lie on your floor or your bed or wherever you are. So please take good care of yourself, right? Because we're not in this yoga practice to suffer. That's not why we're here, I think. And so there's no need to steal from ourselves, right? To pull ourselves out of the experience and put ourselves into suffering, really just because of something we have in our minds, right? So if you're feeling good here, you're taking a few breaths, you're kind of settling in, you're letting your body settle. Notice the sensations in, around the shoulders, the upper back, the mid back, maybe further afield. No need to fix anything, just kind of noticing what is here now. And then when you're ready, you're going to reach for your strap. If you have a longer strap, this is one place I like to kind of double it up a little bit, just so not so much of the strap is hanging down. You're going to take that strap between your hands and you're going to take your hands up towards the sky. So whatever you're holding is going to keep your hands above your shoulders approximately, about that width. And it's just going to help keep your hands connected. As you come into this position, again, you're going to make sure that everything feels okay, so you're not moving into a place that's causing you pain. And the first movement we're going to do here is we're going to do reaches. So you're going to think about pressing the strap up towards the ceiling from the shoulder. So you'll notice my upper arm bone lifts away from the floor, pressing the strap up towards the ceiling here. And then I'm going to let the shoulder settle back into the socket. Strap is going to lower. So I'm lifting and lowering the strap from your shoulders. Notice the elbows. So the elbows will sometimes like to take a little bit of the movement on. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially in day-to-day life, right? If you have no pain, especially, it doesn't really matter if you're doing something from your elbow or your shoulder. But just to stick with our metaphor here, right, the elbow steals some of the work from the shoulder, right? And so if we want to focus on the shoulders, we're going to quiet the elbow, not because it's bad, but because it does take away from the job that the shoulder is doing here, right? So we're going to keep this movement nice and smooth and small and easy if we can. Now this may be a movement that's unfamiliar for you and you may have difficulty feeling it. So you're just going to take your time and see what you've got here. And then let's bring the hands down for a moment. We'll let the strap rest. We'll let the hands rest. And here's where you have a choice for what to do with your mind. So instead of tuning out, see if you can tune in. Take a moment to really notice what you're feeling. What are the sensations around the shoulders and the upper back, the elbow and the hands? No rush here. When you're ready, we're going to take that strap again. We're going to bring the arms up to the sky. We're going to place our hands on the strap so they're more or less up above the shoulders. And we're going to think about this time letting the upper arms be heavy. So the upper arms are going to descend towards the floor as far as is comfortable, keeping the elbow, though, straighter. If it's most comfortable to have a little bend in the elbow, you're going to keep that bend the same as you move. This time we're going to start to take the strap towards the wall behind you and then maybe even down towards the floor any amount. And then you're going to come back up. As you're doing this movement, it's very possible that you're going to notice some limitations or limits, some boundaries on your movement happening in your own body. So that could feel like a few things. There could be some pain. So pain is a definite stop sign. It's your body's way of saying nope. And I'm not talking about the kind of pain that's just hanging around the whole time. I'm talking about an increase in pain or a new pain, right? So we're not going to move into a range where there's pain. We're not going to move into a range where you're noticing you need to kind of grit your teeth or tense your abdomen or hold your breath in order to get your hands to that place. That's also a no. And then the last thing you're going to look for is, does it feel like the movement is smooth and easy? So you may get to a point where you realize, well, I could go further, but I'm not sure I can come back up. That is also too far. So you'll just see here if comparisons come up. You may have an idea about how far you should be able to move your arms. You may have an idea about how far you're moving your arms compared to mine. You may be consciously or unconsciously, sometimes it's very subtle and we're almost not aware of the way we push ourselves to just, there's that sensation that's uncomfortable, but it's really small. So I'm just going to go a little bit further. And that can be really insidious and hard to catch in ourselves, hard to notice, right? So it feels very normal. And sometimes we're pushing ourselves into places where we actually don't need to be, where it's not helpful to be, right? So see if you can find that sense of ease of movement, keeping this movement in that range of motion that feels helpful. And then you're going to bring that strap out to the side again, let the arms come down again. Take a moment and notice how you feel. And then a good thing to do here is to roll a little bit to one side, pull out that blanket or other support from underneath your spine and come back down onto the floor. And here you may notice things feel a little different. Your body's going to settle into a little bit of a different shape here, not having that support underneath you. Again, you're going to pay attention to what is serving you here. If you need to have support for comfort, do that. And then while the upper body is resting here, we'll just do a little bit of movement for your hips too. So you're going to have your knees bent and your feet on the floor if you don't already. If you've learned to step your feet really close to your sitting bones, you might see how it feels to move them a little further away. So you're looking for a sense of more space around your knees, hips, and low back, while still feeling grounded and supported through the feet. We're going to keep the feet more or less where they are. You can tip onto the edges of your feet as you move, but we don't want to slide them around on the mat. We're going to just take the knees away from each other, coming into butterfly here. So knees come wide. Feet rock onto the outer edge, perhaps, but don't slide in towards each other. And then we're going to come back up. So going back and forth a few times. So again, no reason to go into any places that are painful. See if you can stay in a range that feels really comfortable and easy. Pay attention to any shifting that might be happening through your pelvis. So we want the pelvis and the rib cage, the shoulders, the hands, all of this to be really quiet. So all that's moving is thigh bone in the hip socket. Legs are following along for the ride as that happens. Everything else is pretty quiet. Next time you come back up, you're going to let the left foot rest. So left foot stays planted. And now you're going to move just the right side. And here's where you can really tune into what you're feeling. We're going to look for a movement that can happen at the hip without a lot of other stuff getting involved. So here we do need to be honest with ourselves and really tuning into the sensations to try to determine, is one hip lifting or getting light? Am I rocking over onto one side? Is a hip lifting up towards the armpit as I go? Or is my left leg wobbling around all over the place? And can I quiet the left leg, quiet the pelvis, and just move the right leg? So this might be very small, and for some of us it really is a matter of coming to the smallest movement you can do first, and then maybe growing that if you're able to maintain that same sense of ease and stability. We're going to let the right leg rest, coming to the left side. Same thing as you're coming out to the side, you're going to pay attention to what's happening in around the pelvis, what's happening in the right leg, and can I find that range that's quiet? And just notice, right, where are you trying to push yourself beyond the limit of like what is really happening in your body? And that may not be harmful in this case per se, but it may not be as helpful as you might think either. So see if you can find a range that feels really good, that's so easy in the hip. It's kind of allowing for some comfortable, easy movement without feeling like you need to brace or hold your breath or anything like that, right? And then you're going to come into stillness again, both feet planted. Take a moment here to just notice what you feel. And then if it feels okay, you're going to bring knees in towards you one at a time, holding the legs with the hands. From here, you might bring your knees out towards the sides of your body a little bit if that feels good. And you're going to notice what happens as you do that. It's very possible your low back flattens into the floor a little bit, so you're just going to notice that. So you might stay here with the knees wide. You might start to bring your legs so that your shin bones are more straight up and down. And then you might hold the backs of the thighs. You might reach up for the ankles, or you might even reach up for the feet. And here again, you're going to notice, right, are you trying to reach for something you don't have right now in this particular moment in time? We haven't done a lot of movement for the hips here. And so it may just be you're working really hard to hold on somewhere that isn't easily within reach right now. And as you're doing that, you might be straining through your shoulders and your neck, right? Can you just be where you are in this moment, whether the feet are up or not? Breathing and feeling, being present in this Ananda Balasana, this happy baby shape, whatever it looks like for you. And then when you're ready, you're going to release, bringing the knees in towards you. From here, you might rock a little bit side to side. If it feels good, you might roll to one side and press up there from the side of your body, straightening that top leg a little bit as you come up. That'll allow you to use the hands for some support. But if you want to come up a different way, that's absolutely fine to do. And then once you make your way upright, you can take a few breaths just to notice what you feel. And then don't rush. If you're willing, Don't rush. Take your time moving on to the rest of your day so you're not stealing the benefits of your practice from yourself by then rushing off to the next thing, right? Just food for thought. And sometimes we do that, and it's okay. It's okay to be learning in this journey as long as we're paying attention and noticing what's happening and refining as we go along. So if you have practice questions either about the physical postures that we did or the philosophy that I talked about, if you want to just share your experiences with this practice, I'd love to hear that in the comments. So please feel free to share. And if you'd like to sort of take these concepts of asteya and see where else they might apply in your yoga practice or in your life, which actually is yoga practice too, then it can be a really helpful concept to continue to explore, I think, over a lifetime. I hope you enjoyed this practice. May we all be balanced and well. Thank you so much.